Today, I get to start with telling you probably one of my most embarrassing moments, but we all have them. So, today I'm going to tell you fire alarm. This is the picture I'm using for it because I was about this age when this whole thing went down. So, there I am in my little Smurf costume for Halloween. So, this was taken the same year this happened. So, when I went to kindergarten, I had a strong disadvantage in that I spent most of my time as a little kid with a lot of adults, which is great because I was supervised and I learned wonderful things from all the grandparents on the farm. But the bad thing was I hadn't really socialized a lot with other kids. I mean, yeah, I hung out with my little brother Derek, but he was born an old man. You should see him. Sardines and saltines from like the age of 2. He's an old dude. So I had old-timey kind of language as well as some of my father's more choice words at that age, and I didn't get social cues. I still struggle with that. So that's key to this story. I was very nervous about going to kindergarten. I didn't see why I couldn't just stay home on the farm. I argued with my parents for weeks leading up to kindergarten that, "Look, I'll just stay here and learn everything I need to know about life." Not so much. So it was the second week of kindergarten. It had already been a rocky start. I had literally tried to quit several times by walking out, but I was excited this day because this day the teacher said something magical. She said, "We're going to the library." And I was like, I had so many questions. I think that teacher hated me because anytime I would raise my hand, she would look at me and sigh. She would literally go, "Monica." She would sigh at a time. I don't blame her. I had a lot of questions. I was a weird little kid. Questions included, what kind of books do they have there? How many can we check out? How long do we get them for? She said, Miss Wynn will answer all of these questions for you. And sure enough, when we got there, Miss Wynn did. But before we could get there was trouble. In my school, it was so small and it was the 80s. So I think rules were a bit looser then. I don't think you could get away with this now. But our school was so small that the hallways would get completely packed. So one of the things the teachers taught us to do was if we were on the stairs and it was a peak movement time, they would have us just kind of hunker down while the big kids went past. Like I said, I don't think that would happen now. It was completely unsafe and didn't make any sense. But that's what we were doing on the way to the library. A big like group of big kids came by, and our teacher said, "Okay, hunker down." So I'm just kind of hunkering down on this staircase. And then another teacher came and had her students on the opposite side. So our two teachers were just talking, like teachers do. And I'm kind of sitting there, and these kids across the way, these older kids, decided, I think what they did was they scanned all the kids there and went, "That one. That one's the perfect one to try this with." Because what happened was when I was little, if I was excited about something, I would not only go into my own little world, I would do this as well while kind of rocking back and forth. So I'm sure these kids saw that and were like, "Jackpot." So they start going, "Hey, kid, hey, kid." They give my attention. And then they give me all these arguments as to why I should pull this lever that's at the top of the stairs. I can't read yet. I can't read what it says. I figure out though that it's a fire alarm. So I go, that's a fire alarm. I've seen that before. My mom has pointed that out and they're like, "No, no, no. It's different in this school. That's not a fire alarm. That's to celebrate special occasions." Now, you wouldn't buy this story. Of course you wouldn't. But I was so naive and so gullible. And I also had such a great imagination that I completely visualized the things they were saying. They said that if we only pull that fire alarm for special occasions, this is how they nailed the argument, by the way. They're like, "Special occasions, like the president or the principal's birthday." I'm like, those are pretty important people. I pictured what they said would happen, a rain of confetti and balloons coming down. I thought that sounded wonderful. And then they mentioned there was glitter as well, and I was sold. Look at this kid. Glitter should have been your first argument. Um, I then got nervous because I didn't want to miss out on my library trip and I didn't want to get in trouble. My mom had given me so many warnings about what would happen to me if I got into trouble. So I'm like, I don't want to get caught. And they're like, "Well, look how little you are. No one will notice." Our teachers are talking. I bet you're really sneaky. They use the other tactic of a bully, which is flattery. And I was like, I am really sneaky. I'm like a ninja. So while the teachers were talking, I like kind of slowly creep by my classmates who say nothing. Why would you? Watch the weirdo go to work. I climb up, I pull the fire alarm, and I remember very clearly doing this. I put my head up because I honestly thought glitter, balloons, confetti. As you know, there was no glitter balloons and confetti. Instead, there was this horrible sound. Horrible. I'd never heard of fire alarm before. We don't have those on the farm. So just, I freak out. I just hunker down like you do when you're scared. Everyone evacuates the school. It's a fire alarm. My teacher goes, "Come on, we gotta go. We gotta go. It's a fire alarm." I mean, and then I start very quickly talking. Just, I didn't mean to do it. They said there would be balloons and confetti like in the president's birthday. I know it's not the president's birthday. I'm just freaking out. She slowly pries my fingers off the stairwell and carries me, literally, fireman carries me out the door because I was not going of my own volition. When we get outside, she kind of puts me down and gives me a look. Again, I don't blame this woman, but her contempt for me, palpable. So she puts me down, and now I'm trying to like rejoin my class. I kind of like meekly follow her. One of the kids who set me up this way goes, "There she is. There's a girl who pulled the fire alarm." And everyone starts clapping and cheering. I'm a kindergartner. I'm not used to this much attention, and I'm stressed out. Take a guess. What happened next? Yeah, I peed my pants. I peed them in front of everybody. And someone else was helpful enough to point that out. So now everyone is really cheering, and I don't know what to do. I am frozen to the spot, horrified, just having the worst day. I mean, I was going to go to the library. That's all I wanted. And then this is where the story twists because the librarian, I didn't know that yet. I hadn't gotten to meet her, but the librarian very kindly came up. Miss Wynn, sweetest woman ever. She put her like little shawl thing around, tied it around my waist and said, "Come on, dear, let's go back inside. It's going to be fine." I start babbling at her and she goes, "Okay." She listened to all of it and went, "Okay, okay, well, let's go talk to the principal. If you're worried about getting in trouble, you can just explain it. It was clearly an accident. You didn't know any better." So she was wonderful. She even wrote a letter home for my parents so I could bring it home. So I was terrified of getting in trouble at home. So I came home. My mom said I got off the bus, and this is how the story ends. I got off the bus, just dragging my backpack, just all the emotions on my face, kind of handed her the letter and waited for the trouble. I waited for hell, and it didn't come. Instead, my mother laughed and laughed and said something along the lines of, "You've had a bad day." I was like, "I hate school, never going again." So she convinced me of all the reasons why I should continue going to school, and apparently I went pro. So that to this day is the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me. But now that I'm an adult, it's entertaining.